You get to see a side of leadership that most people will never get to touch.
Show people that you can take care of the little things and they'll trust you with the big things.
Behind the title and the impression we tend to get with executives, they're just humans.
You kind of start being able to read between lines. You start getting a sixth sense, right?
Oh, interesting.
And like previously they said it like that, but it was actually way more urgent than they let on.
An exec would tell me, oh yeah, let's schedule that tomorrow. And then I go to their EA and I'm like, what do you mean tomorrow? You have no time on your calendar. Why would you tell me that? They don't realize.
That guy leans over to me. He's like, you haven't said much. That's good, because I never learned anything by talking. You're telling people no a lot more than you're telling people yes in this role, but trying to still spin it as like a goodwill ambassador, like, sorry, we can't do that, but here's what I can offer you. You know, you always put these systems in place, right? But the thing is, the system will not save you. It may help you a little bit here, it may help you there, but it's not going to be a cure-all.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today's guest has been in rooms, emails, Slack channels, desk side conversations, and moments that most of us will never actually see. And not because he has chased status, but because he earned the trust of people at the organization. This conversation is not about personalities or gossip. It's about systems, how leadership behaves under pressure, especially in these times. And it's also about agency. Okay, what you and I can do differently, no matter where we sit in the org chart, how we can better show up to participate as high-performing, high-trust leaders in tech organizations. That's where we're going today. And so I'd like to welcome our guest, Sean Berry, to the show. So I know you're a program manager now, and you've evolved out of your role, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
But I want to start with your role as an executive assistant in a big tech company. For me as a PMM, product marketing, I always was connected to EAs because you're the kind of gatekeepers. You help make sure that the system is oiled and moving and flowing. And I always found your role to be such a privileged and special position where you get to see all different sides of the equation that, you know, you don't necessarily get to see a few levels down when the comms are polished and everything is all buttoned up and perfect, you know? And so that's where I want to start.
I never anticipated being in that kind of role, especially at that level, right? I didn't come from a tech background. I had nothing, to do with, the tech industry. I always had an interest in it, right? Loved, technology growing up. But, I moved to San Francisco.
From where?
I moved from LA to San Francisco. Might as well try to get a job in tech. I think I applied to like 800 roles over 9 months. And this is back when tech was still, in a pretty good position. We're talking like 2017 to 2018, right? Got a couple interviews and everything, and then shot my resume over to Lyft. And they're like, same day, like, hey, we'd love to interview you.
Same day?
Yeah, which,
That's a miracle.
Yeah. Did the interview process, got hired, started off under the C-suite, right?
Okay.
But did not start off in like under the CEO role. I did similar work before. So I did, I was an assistant for the California State University before this. I worked at a law firm for many years before that. So like, I could navigate tumultuous up and down kind of industries and areas. And I don't know, I feel like that's one of the biggest strengths I have, or at least it's, what people have given me as feedback is like, the ability to remain calm, right?
Yes.
Which I think is one of the greatest strengths that you need in this kind of role, especially like you never know what's coming down the pipeline, right? Like, especially in an industry like tech, like it is affected by so many different things. There's regulatory, there's news, there's stuff that happens within your product, especially a company where the tech product actually touches people in the physical world.
Did you have a practice for maintaining your calmness? Did you notice like, I need to inject calm into this, or how does that work in the room?
I don't think I ever thought about like needing to inject calm. I think just by being calm just like trying to not be reactionary, trying to be very stalwart and being like, okay, this is the baseline, right? Like when I think about what is happening in the moment, right? Mm-hmm. There are very few instances where I can think of like, oh, I need to react big, right? Like if something's life or death, which 90%, 95, 98% of the things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis are not life and death, right? Like that's when stakes are real, right? If there's something irrevocable that's about to happen and it's going to affect someone's life in a very material way, then it's kind of hard to maintain calm, but you do your best, right?
Yeah.
And I always think like, what is happening in this moment? And then I reflect on it in the grand scheme of everything I experienced in my life.
Yeah.
And is it as bad as the worst day I've ever had in my life? And almost 99% of the time, the answer is no. And when it's no, then it's like, okay, Let's break it down.
Yeah.
And let's tackle what we can and what we can control.
Into manageable steps.
Right. And I think the reason that people kind of go off the rails and like are not calm is because and it's the thing that people talk about in therapy, right? It's like these thinking traps. It's like, oh my God, what if this is going to happen? The what ifs or the assumptions that are made without key pieces of information, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I bet in your role, you have to be a real shark for what key pieces of information are missing here. Like, do I have enough information to freak out? Probably not. What do I need? I don't have the full picture here.
It's also deconstructing things that have already happened, right?
Oh.
Like, okay, this person said or did this, right? Okay, well, why? What's the context there? How did we get here, right? Like, very few times, especially when you're working with someone and you all have similar goals, do things come out of a place of malice, right? So did they miss a key piece of information? Did they have the wrong goal in mind? What happened and how do we get there? And then how do we fix it?
Yeah, there's a calm that certainly is required, but also I feel like trust. Like, in order for you to be functional and successful in that role, people have to trust you. That's a huge component. Don't you agree?
Yeah. And I've moved teams several times. It's not that you start at zero, but there is an entirely different kind of building. And like each time you just like, you need visibility and you need to build that trust, right? And I mean, you build trust brick by brick, right?
By brick.
And it's just like you're showing people consistency. You show people, that you are there. The phrase I forget who it's attributed to, but the phrase I love is like, show people that you can take care of the little things, and they'll trust you with the big things.
Ooh.
And so every little minute thing you can do to make sure the boxes are checked, to make sure that you're doing the cursory work, and then everything on top of that, it's like an ice cream sundae. It's the whipped cream, right? And so just keep building on that. And then one day someone's not just going to hand you, the whole ice cream sundae. They're going to let you take care of the entire dinner, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to let you take care of more than you ever imagined. A couple months into my time at Lyft, I had a leader and they were about to give a presentation in front of, I forget what it was, but it was several hundred people. And they needed the slide deck 2-3 days beforehand, right?
Okay.
And again, everything's busy. Everyone's calendars are full. I'm editing this thing and like I'm getting notes. I'm like, here's what I want to say, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh.
And I make the changes and everything. They had like a late night event they had to go to. And I'm like, hey, here are the changes. We need to ship it by 9 a.m. tomorrow. And then like I get an email late that night, like, oh no, I'm sure it's fine. And now like I'm shipping this thing to this organization. They're going to put it up on there and then they're going to see it for the first time in its final form when they present. Like they trust me like this soon with this much. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. And that is what separates good from great, I think. The best high performing teams have a level of trust that allows you to get on the call and jam on something or have this sort of volley that goes back and forth. You have to cultivate that. It's an active process and an ongoing process.
Yeah. Again, I never expected to be here. This wasn't like, I didn't set out in my career. I'm like, this is where I want to be. I want to be at the top. I want to be at the assistant to the CEO. Like it never crossed my mind. Right. Really, I owe it all to the former EA of the CEO. Cause she went on mat leave and she's like, hey, I'd love you to cover for me temporarily. And I was only a year into my role at the time. Wow. And that's trust. And then we talked about it, right? That's trust. I had a year to do that, right? To establish that level of trust, to then to be given the reins to do that on a temporary basis.
Now, did you ever deal with like insecurity, not feeling good enough being in this room surrounded by CEOs and very senior people? Did that ever come up for you?
This is the one thing that people talk about in performance reviews and everything else, right? The concept of like executive presence. Right? Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. I just play it very demurely. You try to interject where you can, where you can add value, where you feel like you understand things enough to talk about it, especially if you're engaging like kind of a more like informal setting, right? Yeah. Like where you're around a bunch of leaders and you're talking to them and everything, right? Like you just try to like suss out, you get like where you can interject, everything else. When I was working for a law firm, I met a very famous lawyer one time. One of the partners of the law firm. This was in LA? This is in LA. Okay. One of the partners of the law firm. And we were at the courthouse and this famous lawyer that he knew, he just happened to be there. And he's like, the guy's like, hey, let's have breakfast. This is the first time I'm like meeting someone of this stature. I knew who this guy was. And we're just sitting down at breakfast. And like, I must have been like in my early 20s. And I'm just like sitting there and like, I'm not saying anything. And this guy, and at the end of the breakfast, that guy leans over to me. He's like, you haven't said much. And he's like, that's good because I never learned anything by talking. If you don't speak, people aren't going to think like, what's this person's problem, right? It's like you take in all the information, you get all that and that's the other thing is like being in these rooms all these years, you get a sense of how leadership talks, how they present themselves, what they're thinking of, what words they use, the word choice.
Oh, interesting.
And so like that rubs off on you, right? It's like immersion, right? People, they want to learn a language, they get immersion by, going to that country or whatever, right? You want to learn how those people talk, how leadership talks, right? Like immerse yourself, right? Like listen to those leaders, listen to how they talk, try to be in as many meetings as they are, right? And just figure those pieces out.
I can just imagine there being so much pressure. Am I taking the right notes? How do I articulate the AIs? What is the right altitude of note taking? Do you have a voice in your head that challenges you when you're in those rooms, or how do you navigate that? And what do you do?
The level of acid reflux that happens, it's trained me. I'm like, oh wait, if I feel like coming up, I'm like, I'm not taking the wrong notes, and then it goes back down. It is brought me the most anxiety.
It has.
Yeah. Especially like when you have to like take those notes and then you're like, they're actionable. Someone asks you like, oh, what did this person say? Or like, oh, what was that thing about this? And then you're like, you didn't write it down. Right? And again, this is another thing where like AI is going to come in. It can help solve. But again, like I know a lot of people are reluctant to use AI in some of these instances because of, AC Priv and all this other kind of stuff. So there's all those concerns. So there's always going to be, even with the best AI note taker, there's probably always going to be just a person that's going to have to be in the room and like going to take notes.
Yeah, and a sense of discernment about what makes it, what doesn't.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you feel instantly builds credibility with an EA?
Consistency, I would say. That's one thing. And making sure it's a two-way street. It all depends on EA level, right? Because if you're very junior, right, you're just like, you're basically kind of getting your marching orders. You're like, hey, I need this done. Go do it, right? But as you get further and further up, like again, like talking about like the responsibility piece and the trust piece and giving things over to them, right? Like bringing them into the conversation, and be like, okay, hey, this is what's going. Context too, right?
Context.
It's very hard because a lot of things are happening in orgs and everything. You can't divulge everything, and there's NDAs all over the place for certain things. But being as candid and open and contextual as possible, so that way, like why you're doing something, right? Because like I told you right now, go build a bridge, but I don't tell you why or for what purpose.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do it, but but if you know why, you're like, oh wait, well, if I'm doing it because of this, maybe we should do this instead. Or have you thought about this? Or like, hey, we need to do it this way, right? Like
context is so key.
Context is key, and context matters, and context can build you a better product. So, I mean, the best leaders understand like that their EAs, they're a cognizant functioning piece of the team, right? Especially if you let them in a lot of meetings, which, leaders of all levels should like look at their meetings like, okay, what exposure should they be getting, right? And when you're concentrated and you're not I don't call them blinders, but when you have this kind of singular focus in a meeting about one thing and you're not looking at the other aspects of it, right? And so knowing that they can contribute that way and just like being able, again, we talked about the trust piece, right? Like once that trust is established, like leaning into it. Right.
Yes.
And I know the leaders that I've had, like once we've built that trust and you've got that in there, realizing that, okay, we've got this relationship, got this rapport, they've got the acumen, they've got everything else. Like they are now a functional extension of me. And this is especially important for leaders that don't have like a chief of staff or a big supportive org, right? Where can I lean on this person and kind of use them? Like, they have the saying, you can't be in two places at once, right? Like, well, if I have a functional EA that is very, very good, like, can I kind of be in two places at once? What else can I farm out to them as far as like responsibilities and everything for like the cognitive load, the meeting with people, the checking in on things, the keeping of tabs on the team? Some people have tons of direct reports, right? That's, 15, 20 lives that you're trying to keep track of, right? And it's like, hey, this person's out because, their parent died, or this person's out because, they're going on pat leave, or this person just adopted a baby. Like, it's like people's lives are happening all the time. Yeah. And like when you have a big org, they're happening concurrently. Like you could have like 3 people on leave and then okay, what's that like? And like, we're trying to keep the ship floating. And exactly. It's like, it's a lot to keep track of. And like, I can't even imagine trying to like keep track of that and do your other job, right? Yeah. And if you don't have someone to lean on to help keep you in line and help keep you abreast of everything going on, then like, you're flying the ship blind.
I can't tell you how many times I had situations where marketers were trying to get time on the calendar or unblocked, and they would struggle, but I would always find a way to do it. And it was like, well, what's your relationship like with his supportive team? Like, do you know his EA? Mm-hmm. Have you taken them to coffee? Have you sat down with them and gotten to know them? Do you know the real? Like, how do you bring them in as part of the equation of this bigger project that we're trying to do, as opposed to I'm using you as a functional human who is singularly supposed to just calendar this for me and be at my beck and call when I want to change it or add something. It's like, no. It does not work that way.
Yeah.
So imagine a new exec is listening to this, watching this, and they're just getting an EA. What advice would you give to them about how to make sure that that relationship is set up for success?
And I have a friend, she's a solo entrepreneur, and she got advice that she's like, okay, it's time for you to get an EA. And she came to me like to ask advice, like, oh, hey, what am I looking for? Are these good screening questions? Like all these little things. But like, then I had her take a step back and I'm like, what is this person going to do for you? What are they going to unlock for you? And she had a list of things that she wanted this person to do. And I'm like, that just sounds like what you do. Like you can't expect someone out of the gate to just be you. So that's one thing to level set. Like when someone is just about to get a, like don't expect them to be you. Sometimes not even ever, right? And sometimes like maybe it'll take a little while for them to like develop that level of trust and that level of handoff that we talked about before, right? So it's like being honest with yourself. What am I actually looking for? What do I expect this person to accomplish? Now, it's okay to say like, I just need someone that handles the calendar. That's it. Done. Right? And that's where like, a new career EA, they're great. They just like, they need to learn the ropes. They need to learn how it functions. They need to throw themselves in the fire, and then they're going to do that with that person. But if you're like, oh, I need this person to make all my decks and I need them to prep notes and I need them to do this and this and that, right? Like be prepared and be ready to like divulge like what the expectations are, right? And also know, like we talked about before, like it's not a panacea. Like this person isn't going to solve all of your problems. They're not like going to be like, oh, I'm going to get this person. And then all of a sudden, oh, my calendar's going to be free and I'm blocked and it's going to be so effortless and oh, we're going to get so much more done. You're going to unlock a lot of potential ability, but it's not going to be a paradise.
Yeah, not overnight too.
Yeah.
It has to develop over time.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you're sitting this close to power in this company. What surprises you the most?
It's funny because like whenever people talk to me about this kind of stuff, they're like, oh my God, what's it like there? And like, oh man, they must be doing X, Y, and Z. And like leadership and like, especially the leadership teams, right? Like when they have meetings and everything, board meetings, leadership team meetings, like it's this big black box, right? Like, what are they doing in there? What could possibly be happening? Like, it's like, like, especially when leadership makes a decision that like, people don't like. They're like, oh, they've done this out of spite. They did this. And it's like, people don't understand, like, at the end of the day, you're getting a group of people together and that's just what they are. They're people, right? And that's what's surprising most. It's like, it's not any different than any other kind of team. It's like, they're just a group of people. They're all dealing with their own things, their own priorities, whether it's work or life, right? And that's the thing. It's like,
they're humans.
They're humans. This leader is, experiencing this in their life. And then like they're stretched in a million different ways, right? Like their mind share can't be 100% on work because they're dealing with X, Y, and Z at home. And then but they still have to be there. They have to show up and deliver. And especially if their org is large, they're a leader and they're accountable to senior leadership. They're accountable to everybody else, right? And so it's very interesting, just like the human aspect of it, right? I think it's a piece that's missing from a lot of organizations. Like being out there and like, it doesn't mean like being vulnerable and telling your life story and every little key piece of detail of your life, but just to be like, hey, these are the challenges that have come up in the leadership team. Like here, we actually sit down, we do these things, we talk about X, Y, and Z, right? And, I've had the privilege of like being part of leadership offsites and seeing like when leaders actually get very vulnerable. And it's a very interesting thing. And you can see like how people's life journeys, their life stories, and then this like the day-to-day things they're experiencing in their life lead to their decision matrix. Like you can see like the way they talk, the empathy they bring, like personality types aren't born out of nothing, right? And so like when you meet someone, you're like, oh wow, that person's great, or they're so funny, or they did this, or like they're kind of reserved and more calculated, right? Like, and then once you peel back and you learn more about them, you can see like, okay, I kind of get why this is like this. Right. And you kind of understand the person more. I know some leaders do that with their teams, but it's very interesting to see on the macro level of an actual leadership team. And, leadership teams change all the time. And like a team is a composite of all the different people on it. And when you take one piece in or out, it changes the entire dynamic of the team, right? It might be material, might be immaterial, it might be minor, but it's a part to whole thing. And it's very interesting to see over the years I've seen like how each key piece can change a dynamic.
Just listening to what you said, I'm almost imagining the room where everybody leaves and then it's just you and the core team or the leader that you're supporting. And it's like, you're sort of holding space for the humanness. It's like after we've done the agenda and we've adjourned and we've left, it's like you're still left with this human who has to figure out what to do after this, or any insecurities or things that maybe didn't go well, and you get to see that. Do you feel like there's a sense of like, I got you, I'm there, I'm supporting you? Like,
yeah, being in all these leadership team meetings and all the other kind of meetings I've been in, right? It's like I am trying to listen to the business aspect of it. I'm trying to take in all the information. Usually I'm taking notes and stuff like that too.
Right.
But I'm also looking at like other like social cues and pickups, right? And like
reading the room.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do these two leaders have tension?
Oh, interesting.
Is this one person constantly bringing up this one topic? Or like, I'm trying to notice patterns, right? And like, because, leaders, they're concentrated more on the concrete core business stuff, right? Like, oh, what's this metric doing? Or what's this financial doing, right? As they should be, right? They're trying to like figure out how they're going to move the business.
Yeah.
But in order to move the business, you need to move the people around you. And if you're not noticing those patterns, those cues, anything else, like, hey, maybe there's something here, right? Maybe there's a tension between two leaders. All right, well, if that's true, like that probably affects things not just in that room, but downstream. And they're working in relationship, right? Okay, how do we solve that, right?
Yeah.
Or is there anything there, right? It's an investigative piece, right? It's like, it's my intuition or whatever, right? Or like my observations, like to suss out and figure that out, right?
Do you think some leaders in those rooms feel like they can't be vulnerable and share their true self, that they have to put a performance on, or they have to present an image, and then when it's done, there's a sense of relief? Or
I think it changes leader to leader. I think some are more already open and vulnerable and willing to share that. I think it's a piece of leadership that's learned.
It's learned
because
over time.
I've seen leaders that have put up a visage, and it's not unreasonable that they would do that, right? Because you think like, especially in tech, you have people that are coming over from large companies that were wildly successful, or maybe they started their own thing and they were wildly successful, right? And like they have this idea of themselves, and then the idea that people have of them, right? And like you're balancing those two things.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
And you're like, okay, well, how am I showing up today, and how are people expecting me to show up? And it's funny because like there have been times where I've had people come to me and they start saying stuff about like a leader I've supported, and they're like, oh yeah, he or she probably does X, Y, or Z, or is like this, or like it must be really hard to deal with X. And it's like, that's not quite how they operate, right? And it's like, again, like talking about how leadership as a whole is like this black box, this mystery, right? It works at the individual level too, right? Like when leadership shows up, depending on the structure is and the meeting cadence and everything, right? Like they just see a sliver. They just see a moment in time of them, like, and that's whatever they're tasked with doing. Like, hey, they're presenting it in all hands, right? That's a different kind of version of them you're going to see versus like them presenting at a company all hands versus their team all hands versus their weekly team or monthly team meeting versus one-on-ones, right? Like you're getting a different version of people. And it's not so dissimilar as life, right? Like, we all have like different versions of ourselves that we do in front of different people, right? But it still doesn't mean that it's disingenuous by any means, but it's just like there are deeper pieces that people aren't seeing, and leaders have to figure out what that is, right? What part they're going to show up as. And to your original question about like vulnerability and everything, like I think again, it's a learned skill, and like people need to be drawn out sometimes. Sometimes people are willing to be like, hey, here's who I am.
Yeah.
Here's everything, all the cards on the table.
At the end of the day, they have to go home to their families. They have to pay their bills. They have to clean their house. They have to figure out like when the dentist appointment is, on top of the regular business responsibilities. And if the more that you can humanize the people that you work with and not necessarily see them as this very sterile, robotic, you're this, and therefore I want this from you, or I have this expectation of what you need to be doing, and if you don't, then you're a bad person. Versus like, no, we're human. We only have so much time in the day. We're trying to figure everything out. I used to have this thing all the time where I would get frustrated where an exec would tell me, "Oh yeah, let's schedule that tomorrow," and then I go to their EA and I'm like, "What do you mean tomorrow? You have no time on your calendar. Why would you tell me that? You have no time." It's like they didn't do that intentionally. It's like they don't realize. Like maybe they're going so fast, like they don't realize. And part of your job is to understand and work within that system.
That is part of why I had them more humanized, is because like I am the one to be like, oh, they've got to go to their kids' recital or game or whatever, right? And like realizing like they do need to have time to do the family things, right? Because like if you're going 1,000 miles an hour and you're trying to, like you said, extract every moment out of the day, because there's a finite amount of time, right? But you still need to make time for the things that matter. And to a lot of people, family matters because it should. And so, but yeah, go to your point, like, hey, get me tomorrow, and then like there's no time, right? It's like people don't realize how busy they are, especially at that level. And then it comes, when they say that, and like, oh no, make it happen. And then it's like, all right, well, time to work a miracle here and figure out how we can actually get this done. And then you're just like playing Tetris. That's again like the other kind of skill set is like the congeniality aspect of it, because like you're telling people no a lot more than you're telling people yes in this role. And so, but trying to still spin it as like a goodwill ambassador, like, I'm sorry, we can't do that, but here's what I can offer you, kind of like.
So that's something you had to get comfortable doing.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So, and the opposite too, like telling people like, oh, we need you ready tomorrow. Ooh. So like trying not to be reactionary and trying to remain calm doesn't mean that things still aren't pressing at times where it's like, oh, hey, new issue just came up. We need answers and we need them in the next 24 hours. Right?
How do you know when to push or when to, because I imagine you have so much being thrown at you. And if you want to please and make everybody happy, you can just say yes to things, but then it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah. Oh no, I think there's no point in which it does not remain overwhelming.
Okay.
Because it's all about triage. Hopefully, AI becoming more and more injected in these roles now. Hopefully that will help. But yeah, like, triaging 800-900 Slacks a week is not an easy task.
I mean, we're going to look back at that in 5 years, 10 years and be like, remember, people used to manually have to go through all that shit.
Yep, exactly. And then they're going to come out with a study like, oh, reading 900 Slacks a week is the equivalent of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes. When to push back, when to execute and everything. It's not something out the gate. You don't hire an EA day one and they're like, I know exactly when. It's something like trust, learned and built over time, right? The weird part about this role is that it is so people-centric, and especially in a role like I've been, majority of my time, it's always been 1-to-1. There have been times where it's been 3-to-1 or 2-to-1.
Meaning you're supporting multiple
people, yeah. But majority of the time it's been 1-to-1, which then it's, obviously the work is enough to where it warrants that. Yeah. But also at that aspect, it's like you are beholden to one person and you have to really think and learn their rhythms and everything. Right. And when you're able to concentrate on one person, you kind of start being able to read between lines. You start getting a sixth sense. Right.
Oh, interesting.
And like they say one thing, but like you remember previously they said it like that, but it was actually way more urgent than they let on. So like, okay, maybe we'll prioritize a little bit more, right? And then you also, you're in meetings, everything, business priorities and everything else, right? You know how important other things are. So you take all these little pieces of information, you amalgamate them in your brain. You're like, okay, it spits out like higher level priority, urgency, X, Y, and Z, right?
I mean, that's an art. That's really something trained. You're reading the room. You're picking up patterns, and you're painting a picture of like how do you think this is going to net out?
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
Yeah, there have been times where I'm like, hey, you're back to back here. I think you should take a break. I remember I was supporting a leader, and they were like, all right, I need to do this meeting, but like I don't want to take a lot of time getting there and back. Like here, I'm going to land at this airport at like 7 a.m. Meetings at like 10 o'clock. I'm going to take the meeting and then I'm going to leave by like 3 o'clock that day. And then I like kind of looked and I'm like, you're giving yourself a very narrow window to make any mistakes here. And especially flying out of San Francisco, like there's fog all the time. There's delays. You're delayed by more than 30 minutes. Everything we've worked to set up just falls apart. And I'm I'm not booking it. We're not doing that. You're leaving the day before, or it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
because I think worse than like not doing the meeting or pushing it off a day is like having it all collapse. And then like you've also wasted your time by, you've gotten on a plane and then you land and you're like, oh, well, I'm an hour late to this meeting and it's not going to happen now. And then you got to fly all the way back. Right. Yeah. It's like, you gotta think about all the different components. And like, again, this role is a lot of like time saving measures, constructing, looking around corners, figuring out like where can things go wrong. But the schedules are extremely packed.
Do you think some people are just built for that, like wired for that kind of extreme?
I have supported a lot of different personality types when it comes to like how they want their calendar, right?
Okay.
Some people, they're like, okay, I'll take a meeting. Then I need like 15, 30 minutes of down. I need to process. Yeah. I need to like, then I need like things with like things, right? I don't want to context switch all the time, right? I want this day to be ideally filled with these topics. I want this day to be like, oh, let's have some proactive time so I can kind of get my head around and get ahead of some other stuff, right? And other people are like, no, fill me
just
up.
Go for it.
I need to go. I don't care if I'm 5 minutes late to the next one. I don't care if I'm 10 minutes late to the next one. I don't care if like I go 30 minutes over on this one and then we bump the next thing. I feel like, oh, if I'm able to like optimize time, or I can see like, whoa, hey, you have this meeting with this person, but you're also meeting with them here. Let's combine these two. I've saved you 30 minutes. Some people are like, oh my God, a 30-minute empty window, I can take another call. It's like the vacuum of space, right? Like it can't exist. It like needs to be filled with something, right?
Wow.
And so I don't know.
I used to be like that. It used to be like an adrenaline rush. I was talking with Jody Kelman. You know Jody. Yeah. She described it as like a huge adrenaline rush. Like when you're in that kind of role, there's limited time to be in your emotions. You have to just move fast. And there's so much adrenaline being rushed at you, from the Slack messages to the emails to there's always so much to do it's just you're in overdrive. But can you do that forever?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like what gives me the most anxiety. Like you get out of 2 hours of meetings and you're like, I have 9 unread Slacks and 12 emails and like gotta triage all this stuff and like what's important, what's not. Leaders are people, like they're burn out too, right? It's like too.
When someone comes up to you and asks for time on the calendar or what do they misunderstand about how leadership actually operates at the top?
If someone comes to me directly in person, right? We're talking about the thing we talked about before of like urgency and panic, right? They're usually like, I need to see him today, blah, blah, blah. And like, just like, okay, time to triage.
So what's really going on here?
Yeah, exactly. And there also have been times where people come up to me like, oh, can I get a meeting on the books today? And like their issue was very urgent, but they didn't come as urgently as they probably should have, which is weird. Cause like, there have been times where like, I didn't read that correctly. And I'm like, oh, well, didn't really get that energy from them, as to where like, other people come to me with minute issues and it sounds like the sky's falling.
It sounds like the sky's falling. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, what people don't understand, like, especially senior leadership, their calendars are filled to the brim, and a lot of them do work very long hours, right? And so like, if you really need something today, like some leaders would be like, yeah, call me at 8 o'clock tonight. Wow. If it's really that urgent. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And sometimes it's just like, they just want FaceTime because like they think whatever they have in front of them is urgent. The most successful leaders, like they don't just be like, all right, I know the answer, let's go with it. They may have an answer in mind.
That's critical.
They may have an answer in mind. They may think it's the right answer, but they put it up there and they put it up for scrutiny and they're like, okay, this is what I think we should do. What's wrong with that solution, right? Or what's right with that solution?
Poke holes in it. Let's explain. Let's explore it. Let's just pressure test it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's be with it for a moment.
And and that's the thing. Like you have to that's where like not having the ego really comes in. Because if you think I alone can cure it, I alone know the right answers, then you're only going to put your answers forward.
Okay, so tell me about that. Can you sniff that out? Can you smell that in a room when someone comes in, an egoic leader who is really in overdrive around that versus people who are not? And what does that do to the room?
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, I've seen like not mainly in senior leadership, but in like lower levels of leadership where it's like people that just really think like they've got it. They know what it is. And I've seen it come out in very toxic ways too, where like, we're in there with senior leadership. Senior leadership will say something, then someone will start answering them. And then that lower level person would be like, no, I think this is what they meant. Right. Which is like trying to speak for senior leadership in a way, which is a very odd thing to me. They're purposely wanting that kind of career growth. They want to get to that next level,
the top.
But it is affecting their behavior on a day-to-day basis, right? Are they doing those things to their detriment, thinking they're doing the things to get them to the next level, when in fact they're just like, they're kind of punishing themselves because they're doing things that aren't core to their work and demonstrating and excelling at what they should be. Their focus is not where it should be. They may be vying for one day being part of the C-suite. They're trying to be there. And like, what's the way to be there is like, you got to be highly visible. You got to be in it. But they're interjecting themselves too much. And especially inserting themselves in between like the people that are below them. And when those people are going to senior leadership, because that's their time to shine.
That's their time to shine.
It's their time to be like, and that's a good reflection on you. So let the people below you like sing your praises and reflect well on you.
Oof, that's big.
When you go see a Broadway play, the director's not getting up on stage and like doing 9 different roles, right? He's letting the people that he's prepared or she's prepared go up there and do the work that they've all worked together to do. Even though it's business and everything else, it's a production. Every meeting, every presentation, everything, it's all a production. So let your players be in the production.
Oh, I love that. I think when I was in some of those roles, there were a couple things going on. One, I wanted to perform and show everyone in the room that, see, I know what I'm doing. And then two, if there was ever a slight chance that I didn't trust someone more junior on my team, that I wanted to make sure that I controlled it. Whereas I didn't want you to say the wrong thing. So don't even worry, I'll take it. And what that communicated to the room was, oh, you don't trust your team enough to let them take the lead, to let them step up.
Yeah.
Oh, how cute. Like, what, and I realized, oh, that was about me, not about that person.
Yeah. That is an entirely different other art form, right? It's like preparing your team, and then like, even though if you feel they're not prepared or they're not like the best presenter or they can't rise to the occasion,
which
right?
happens.
It happens, but you still prepare them as much as possible and you still let them do it. But then you have these kind of, it's like a kind of like little like flow chart of kind of how to mitigate that, right? Like, but in a way that doesn't stab at them. It doesn't embarrass them in the moment, right? It's like you ask clarifying questions. You kind of have a way to segue and kind of get to the point that you actually want to make without kind of undercutting what they just said, right? Especially in like the work that you did, right? Because you were so much in marketing, right? I feel like nowadays, like everybody wants to be that Don Draper. Everyone wants to be that solo act that gets up there.
Has it all figured out.
They set it up. They knock it out of the park. They're the memorable one. They close a deal. They're all parts of it. They're all parts of the pipeline, right? And again, it's a production. And in production, there are many players, right? And so like you got to let all the pieces come together.
That's a big takeaway. It's a production, and inherent in a production, there are many pieces and they all serve a different role. And it's an ecosystem, and that you have to let it play out.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. See, that's a cool insight that you get from your vantage point from where you're sitting. If you just learn to take a breath, suspend the ego a little bit, and allow a little bit more space in the room, you actually, the impact is greater.
Yeah. People, when they think of ego, they're like, oh, it's like a narcissistic, I'm the best kind of thing. But no, it's more of like trying to interject yourself into every solitary piece of the plan, the method, right?
Yeah. We're high performing people. We're in tech. There are a lot of egos inherently in the room. And of course, the work to do is to suspend the ego and notice the ego. But it comes up, especially when there's a lot of adrenaline and there's a hypervigilance. The ego is always right there. What advice would you give to a leader who's listening to this, who knows that their ego can sometimes show up? How do you think about that?
Try to think about it and try to temper it. Be kind of level-headed in those situations. But if it does come up, if it flares up, right, then just like try to feel a way to like reset. Maybe like you realize, oh, I went off on this tangent. Am I talking too much, or am I doing too much of my team's work? Try to think of ways to segue and transition. Like if you're talking about something and you're like, oh man, I've been talking about this for like 4 minutes now, and like I'm taking the stage, like. Think about like, okay, who else could take this, and like segue to another person. One of the greatest like tenets of leadership is like when I see leaders trying to include other people, right? Especially like senior leadership, and like they know the other people that are in the room, and like someone's talking for a while, like sometimes they step in and they take the reins from that leader who's been talking for like 10 minutes. Like, actually, we hear from this person or that person? Yeah, right. To give them a voice, to give them an opportunity, right? Or else, and also they realize like, yeah, someone's like taking the lion's share of the time. We need kind of another perspective here.
Beautiful. I love that. It's like taking a beat, taking a breath, even being honest. Like I've been in moments where I'm like, you know what? I think I said a lot. I'm going to pause here. Maybe there's someone else who wants to add context or a question that wants to come out. Like, let's take a beat. It's a bit of self-awareness, a bit of like, I'm acknowledging.
That's the perfect way to put it, self-awareness, right? And if you don't want to call it out to yourself, like the way you did, like, hey, I think I've been talking for a while, or like, again, like have those segues ready. Is there someone else you can call on, right? Like some people don't even want to kind of acknowledge their own behavior like that. And that's fine if you're not comfortable doing that, but just still be aware of ways to mitigate that behavior.
Yeah.
I forget where it was. I just remember seeing a study recently about like the earning potential and like career growth and development of people that had like base skills in like math, science, etc. But then you take that and you layer it with like great social skills, and like the ones that have like the good EQ and social skills like are outpacing the ones that just have the basic skill. That's the other piece of it too, right? And like a lot of these things we're talking about, right? They're things that you develop over time. You don't want to say like, you're not social, you're an introvert or whatever, you can't do it. Done. You're never going to excel. It's like anything else. It's a learned skill, right?
Correct.
And it's just like learning the ebbs and flows. And again, it's like a macro thing because like there's some things people all do the same.
Yes.
And then it's a micro thing because it's like person to person. You're like each person's got their own idiosyncrasies.
And you're going to make mistakes. And the opportunity is to own it, take accountability for it, own it, and then commit to doing better next time. I will never forget the times where I gave my first presentations and it was way too much information. Like I remember being like, I had 30 slides and we stopped at slide 5. There's so many questions in the second or third slide, and then it derails everything. And it's like, okay, I have to structurally think different about how I use this time next time.
Yeah.
And you learn, like, if someone listening has a big meeting next week, what do you want them to remember?
I want them to remember to seek counsel from their team, right? Especially if they're meeting with senior leadership, which I like, assume they would be, right? Like they seek counsel from their team, ask them like, hey, what am I missing here, right? Because again, the other problem is like when you're preparing for meetings like this, you're so singularly focused. You're like, I'm doing it. Like you're in the deck.
It's
you're
myopic.
Doing it. Exactly. You're like, I'm doing it again. Again, I got it. Okay. Oh, we tweaked this and this. Okay, it's good, right? And it's like you need that extra set of eyes.
Yeah,
right?
Zoom out a little bit.
Exactly. And then the trap that people fall into is they want to preempt every question that they think of in their presentation. And they're like, I know they're going to probably ask about this, so I'm going to present about it before they even ask. And then this. And then like, you got to think like, some of these meetings, especially like leadership team meetings, like they could be 3-4 hours long. They've been going at the stuff they've wanted to talk about. They've been going at the stuff that other people want to talk about. And like, it's pretty mind numbing when you get to the third or fourth hour of these meetings. And like, especially if you're coming in last, like you are the tail end of the attention economy.
Yeah.
You need to grip them. Right. And so if you come and you're like preemptively like trying to offset every question that you've already thought of, you're kind of losing your key messages because you're muddying the waters with everything else that you think they want to hear. And their key points are being lost in all that, right? What I've seen be the most successful is like when people look at who's going to be in the room, and like, the kind of people in the room, like the CFO is going to ask about financial questions. Like, the marketing person's going to ask about marketing, right? You kind of get tangentially like at whatever your product touches, like what are the pieces you need to kind of be ready to answer, right? But don't answer them all at once. It's like have those in your mind and ready to go, right? So like, don't give me all the answers before I ask the question, but have it at the ready, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like, as much prep as you've done, everything you've done, you're not going to have all the answers. And saying, I don't know is an acceptable answer, or we'll get back to you on that, right? Now, not every question can be met with that. Like if there's something that's very cursory and key that you should know and you don't have an answer for it, then it kind of gets a little hectic.
But there's a difference between honestly saying I don't know and circling back, and then fabricating an answer because you think you need to have an answer, and then everyone in the room can read, I don't think that that's true, or you're not being honest about something,
or the vulnerability to have an answer that they might not like on top of it, right? Not trying to spin the kind of middle case that we have is like, it's great, or painting a more rosy picture than we are. Because like you're saving face then, but if something, if that can tumble down and be something that's detrimental to you, 3-6 months down the line.
Yeah.
Right? One of my greatest strengths, again, like having been in these rooms for so long, is like when I talk to my team now and we're talking about like what we're doing, what we're planning, how we're going to present something, I'm like, okay, you want to do this. If I'm senior leadership, why do I care? What does it mean? Exactly. Yeah. Right. And like every company's got goals. They've got metrics they're tracking, right? Like there are tons of great ideas out there how to improve product, how to improve experience, and everything, right? But do those move the actual goals? And if they don't move them quite precisely, or if there's no direct connection, but there could be some tangential, like prove that out, right? Like why are we doing
big?
It?
That's
right?
so big. And it's so simple, but it's so easy to overlook.
Yeah.
Why, what's in it for them? Why would they care? And why now?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is like, hey, I've got this great idea and it can improve, X amount of customers. I'm like, okay, well, is that enough? Right? Like, are we going to spend all this time to do this for this? Every time I think about like things that we're doing or process we're going through, I'm like, how is this going to be? Like if I had to today or next week go and present to the senior leadership, like how is this going to pan out? And you got to think about that and like kind of work backwards from there. Cause like, then you really think like, is this important? Is this the thing we should be doing? Cause if I can't go to senior leadership and be like, this is it, then
is this important? I feel like that is so critical. That's connected to triage, which is a word you used many times before. So many of us, I feel like in our roles where we're wearing the hat of the identity, we're, okay, I'm going to do this thing. But then we lose the connection to, well, is this thing that you've just spent this time on even important to move the business? And then when you actually trace it, you're like, actually, maybe it's not that important.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, oh shit, like I should have thought about that a long time ago. But it's important to call it out, that we to constantly come back to, is this the priority? Is this important? Is this the priority? We only have 24 hours in a day. Like, is this the right use of time?
Exactly. Yeah. One-on-one CEO conversations can go different ways, right? It depends on like, is it a regular recurring meeting, right? Then it's like pretty pro forma. You know what to expect, you know what kind of topics to bring and everything. If it's a one-off, it can differ. If this is like something that you asked for and the CEO said yes, then you need to show up in a certain way, right? Like, why are you here? What's going on? Like, what are the asks? The CEO gets asked for the sun and the moon and the stars every day. So you need to be ready to make your case if there's an ask.
Yeah.
Just coming just like extremely prepared. Like, here are the things I want you to be aware of, the things my team's working on, and then the effects here. Here's where I could see some blockers. Here's where I can see this or that. And if the CEO is asking to meet with you, then it's like, that's when I've seen more panic is like
oh,
what,
shit,
what
do they want?
But no, it's like, but especially like, again, the CEO touches everything, right? But then, part of like having a good handle on the organization is like not just meeting with your teams, like, hey, who are the key players on your team that like, I want to hear their insights, their takes and everything. It's like when those requests come through, like, why? What's going on? It's like, it's a very,
Now you've had that where people come to your desk and like, what's going on with this thing?
Why did you?
And that puts you in an interesting spot because then you have to figure out what are you going to say, right?
It's like, and again, like I don't always have all the information, right? It's like, but it's like, it's not like a panicky thing. It's like, it's good leaders are interested on, not, like I said, not only what their teams are working on, but the people below them are working on, right? Yeah. Like it all rolls up, like, especially like, and sometimes, leaders below are like, hey, I have this superstar. They're great. It'd be great if you could meet them. I want you to hear their takes. And and again, it's like letting your players shine, right?
Letting your players shine.
That's like an individual like thing. It's like, oh, this person's now they're at bat. They're ready to go. They're ready to knock it out of the park. I want you to show, and it's going to be a good reflection on you. Show how great you are and the talent that we're cultivating here, the things we're doing here, highlight it. Talking through minute details sometimes in certain aspects where, senior leaders don't have as much exposure. That'll plant a seed. That'll be like a catalyst for something like, oh, I never thought about X, Y, or Z, right? And that'll be the genesis of maybe something else that then down the line like leads to a big idea.
One of the most surprising things for me presenting to the CEOs is recognizing also the skill of having the 35,000 foot view, but then being able to go really deep on something and to be able to oscillate back and forth between the big picture and then to go really granular on whatever that thing is that we're discussing. And just the cognitive capacity to do that is really just a tremendous art form. And it reminded me the importance of respecting their time. I think about that so much. Like you have 30 minutes in a meeting with them, but really it's probably going to be 20 because someone's going to be late or something's going to go over. How are you going to use that time? How do you appendices certain things? How do you make sure that you're really respecting the time that they have, knowing that they're in all these things and you have this one moment with them. How do you actually use that well? And I think that those moments that you have really do matter. It matters.
Treat it like an elevator pitch, but the elevator is the Burj Khalifa and it's the local and you're going up 100 floors, right? You have more time, but still like you need to get all your points. You need to be ready. So when they step off that elevator, they know exactly why you came there, what you're about, everything's clear. If you do it well, you structure the time to where like, again, like we were talking before, right? Like, hey, these days I want to concentrate on X, Y, and Z. And then like you have your review days where like, that's where a team can present and go deep. Those are the time. Cause like you can't go deep 30 minutes back-to-back meetings all day, every day. Like you're just gonna burn out and you're gonna die.
Right. Okay. So that brings up a tactical point, which is the importance of blocking your time, really being intentional about how you structure your week.
Yes, exactly.
So not from a reactionary, I'm just going to take every meeting and just be all of it, but thinking about how do I organize the week in a way that works best for my workflow, for my mental capacity.
Yeah. And this thing, like, so you always put these systems in place, right? But the thing is, the system will not save you.
Yeah.
No system. Like, that's the thing. Everyone sees like systems out there, like, oh, I'm going to get organized by doing this. Or like someone buys a book, this is the way you should organize your life, right? There's no panacea.
There's no panacea.
It's not, it may help you a little bit here, it may help you there, but it's not going to be a cure-all, right? And that's the thing. Like, I've put so many systems in place, but they go to hell because like, hey, this person needs to meet, or like, oh, hey, again, like it's the humanistic factor. Like, oh, hey, this person, like, hey, their kid's sick. They got to move the meeting, right? Like, all right, well, now my theme of this day is off because like this person who's working in this vertical has to now go and do this day and they still need to meet this week. So then it's throwing everything else off.
Tell me about what you have invited more into your life now that you're in a job with a bit more balance, maybe less of an adrenaline rush. Maybe there's more time in your life at this stage in your life. How are you using your time differently today than you were 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally different. I feel there are times now that I can just shut off and like shut my brain off.
Same.
And just like,
I could never have done that.
Yeah. Before. And just be. I think this is more of a cautionary tale than like talking about what my current state is. I think it's a cautionary tale for not only, for a lot of your audience out there, especially your high functioning leaders. It's like they need to take that time. And I know tons of people that feel like they can't. COVID hit and I was about 3 years into my job and I looked at my calendar and I'm like, wow, in the last 3 years, I've taken 10 days off. I'm not counting the corporate holidays or anything, just like 10 days off in 3 years. And those were non-contiguous days, right? I was turning 3-day weekends into 4-day weekends. Like, I wasn't going on big trips or anything. I wasn't really disconnecting. It's so important. And like I took 2 trips this year or last year, which, I had not 2 long trips, like 2 weeks each, right? Which I had not done in years. And to international destinations. So like there's the time difference. So that helps me, right? I'm also not in the role I was in before. And it's like, not only that, but like I put a thing on my phone where like news didn't come through. I had my important people that I want to keep in touch with. Their text would come through. But like shutting myself off from the news cycle, shutting myself off from all of the outside agitations of the world and just, experiencing. So that's something that I haven't been able to do before or, was more reluctant to do before. That now like probably more so needed to do like on a more daily basis, right? Like kind of like do that shut off. I know like a lot of people meditate and everything, but meditation, it's a very finite time. Like shutting off the news and shutting off the world. I know it's very difficult in our current state of the world, but like it's a difficult balance to try to stay informed and also like trying not to drag yourself down, right? It's like, but there is a way to strike a balance. The deluge of all the things that came my way when I was in those old roles, right? It's like I learned in this job that you don't have to keep your head above water. You just have to keep 2 nostrils and you can survive. And like learning that, like that's like the mode I've been going in. So it's kind of hard. I don't give a lot of thought to career development, which is much to my detriment. And like while it took me probably so long to transition, my mind share is at the job and like always doing the job. And so it's difficult to kind of step back and take that time and be like, well, what do I really want from me? Right.
You could argue that you haven't been thinking enough about your career and your 5-year plan or whatever, but then you can also argue it's working just as it's meant to be. You've had all this great experience. You've moved into this other role, and you move with the flow of it. That's another way of looking at it too.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade the last years for anything, right? Because again, like I've gotten so much exposure. I've seen things at so many different levels, and we didn't even touch about like how boards interact with each other and how leaders interact with the board and all that. And it's a whole.
You could write a book about this.
Yeah, because like think of all the anxiety that people in an org have for showing up to senior leadership. Well, now senior leadership's got to show up for the board, right? It's like it's a whole nother ball of wax, right? And it makes me wonder, like, okay, well, when the board is to present, or people on the board present to people, what do they feel like? It's like everything's going in these weird, I don't want to call them concentric circles because the circles never end, right? Like everyone's always got to do something. Yeah. Everyone's always somewhat beholden to someone, right? The buck stops somewhere. And eventually you're going to, no matter where you are in life, you're going to have to be, accountable, whether it's your spouse or, your kids or whomever, like you're accountable to some, or, if failing all that, you're accountable to yourself at the end of the day.
Well, thank you for this. I think the takeaway for me, there's many takeaways, but the sense of calm that you bring into high pressure rooms, the importance of that, the need to triage and to constantly be thinking, why is this important? Why now? The importance of respecting people's time in the room and of recognizing that behind the title and the impression we tend to get with executives, they're just humans. They're just people just like us with insecurities and strengths and things that we got going on at home and lots of stuff to do. And having that empathy allows us to have a little bit of patience and a little bit of humility for the whole situation, and the importance of staying human throughout this whole thing. Well, I love this. I'm so glad that you're in New York for work and that you were able to stop by the studio and join us. And a lot of people are going to benefit from this, no doubt. And I'm excited to share it with people.
Thank you for having me. I've never been on a podcast before. I don't know why I've been doing therapy all these years. I should have been doing this. But yeah, it was great.
All right, wave at the camera. That's it for today's episode. If listening to this brings up something for you, I'd love to hear about it. Shoot me a note at hello@letsgowithjulio.com. The Let's Go with Julio show is produced and edited by Ricky Gunton, and our theme song is You Are the One by Nick Deutsch. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with a friend or two who could benefit. I see y'all. I love you. Let's go, leaders.